So I'm Filipa. I'm a product designer at UXIT, so at Filecoin Foundation. Some people call it UXIT, some people call it UXIT, so it depends on your mood. I usually call it UXIT. I think it sounds better. Daniel already explained a bit what dogfooding is, so I'm not going to spend time on that. Thank you for that, Danny. But one thing that I really want to reinforce is that dogfooding doesn't really replace usability testing in a more standard way with real users. It's great to catch issues, and it's great for you to, it's a best practice, for you to test your own products, but you really should get out there and talk to people and really try to understand their needs and their pain points, because everyone has a different perspective and different experience. So yeah, don't take it as a free pass to skip, usability testing with people. That being said, I'm just going to talk about the most common UX pitfalls. These will serve as a sort of like introduction to the exercise that we're going to do afterwards. So the fun part is, I'm going to talk about these issues, and then you try to see if during those live dogfooding sessions, you'll find some of those issues as well. Or other. It's always a bit unpredictable. One thing that I really wanted to reinforce is that these are the issues that we as UXIT, which actually I haven't told you what it stands for. It's actually User Experience Improvement Team. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but it's never too late. So yeah, these are the issues that we most commonly we encounter. But if you probably go to Google and search UX pitfalls, you'll find different ones, because our context is really specific to Web3, to Filecoin ecosystem. So it really it's really specific to our own concept.
It's also based on, these are the common themes from us having done 25, 30 tests on different parts of the ecosystem over the last 12 months or so.
Exactly. So it's really specific. It's a good list. I think it's a good starting point. Afterwards, I know there are a lot of issues. I'm going to cover only 3 in this presentation, but afterwards, at the end of it, I'm going to share a QR code with a Notion document where you can check all of these issues. We also included some action items there, so for you to have in mind when building your own products, and also extra tools and resources to help you along the way in order to solve or even to prevent those issues. So yeah, don't worry about how long this list is, because I'm not going to cover everything. So, firstly, accessibility. I know it's a huge topic. We could spend an entire presentation talking just about accessibility. You could spend your entire life reading about it. It's really broad and really big. But in this presentation, I'm going to talk about 3 specific issues within accessibility. Firstly, color contrast, keyboard navigation, and alt text for visual elements. These are really low-hanging fruits if you think about it. It doesn't really require a lot of effort or resources to tackle, but these are really important for your users. So for instance, in this example here, we're using a gray text on a white background, and if we pass that on a color contrast checker, which for that there are many tools out there. This one is a plugin that I use in Figma, but if you don't use Figma to design, you can even add browser extensions. Firefox, I think, also has an accessibility inspector. So there are many tools for that. Those are in the document that I'm going to share afterwards. But for instance, in this example, this gray text on a white background doesn't pass the contrast test. Normally, we aim for a AAA ratio. So that's what we should aim for, but it also depends on the size of the text, in comparison to other elements within your page. But if you see the image on the right, you can see that visually it doesn't change as much, It's obviously a bit darker, but then it passes the contrast, test. So it doesn't make a huge difference visually, but it really helps in terms of accessibility. So that's something, it's, as I said, it's a low-hanging fruit and something really easy to tackle. Secondly, keyboard navigation. It's really important for people to be able to navigate your website or your product with their keyboards. For that, you need to have in mind that, well, there are mainly 3 issues with keyboard navigation. Sometimes it's not even possible at all to navigate the website with keyboard. Sometimes it is possible, but the components that we're using don't have a focus state. So for instance, in this example, this is actually from the power voting tool. In this example, there's the default state, right? And then when someone is using keyboard to navigate on our website, there's also a focus state, which indicates that we are, just selecting that element. That is a really important feedback to have, because obviously if you allow people to navigate with keyboard but don't give them any visual hint about where they are in the page, then it gets a bit confusing. So it's important to allow for it, but also to give visual hints. Then alt text for visual elements. In this example that I'm using here, this is actually an image from our website created by our amazing creative team. And if you inspect it, you can see there's, actually alt text for this, which says a grand library with modern server racks and a large network of spheres above, symbolizing data and technology. This is quite easy to implement, doesn't require a lot of effort, but it ensures that people using screen readers, for instance, also have a good experience using our website. And I think we should consider that when building it, because as I mentioned, if we consider that from the beginning, then it gets easier with time. I just want to mention that not every image needs alt text. If the purpose of that image, or images mostly, is decorative, it doesn't really need alt text. But for that, there's an alt text tree decision that I've included in the document as well, so you can check it out and from that understand if that specific visual needs alt text or not. I'm going to move on to other topics, but I wanted to say that if we think about accessibility at the beginning, and if we ensure that accessibility is there, it improves the experience for everyone, not only for people with disabilities. If you take anything from this presentation, I would like it to be this one, because I think that is the most important thing about accessibility. Secondly, lack of context. Especially in dashboards, I think we all understand the power of dashboards. It's really important to provide context as well, because all of that data without context gets really difficult to interpret, and also can be sometimes misleading. So sometimes it's a matter of adding labels, adding the specific units that we're talking about, or sometimes just adding short descriptions about what we're talking about what that page is about, for instance. So I think obviously we need to find a middle point. We don't want to overload people with information. So it's really important to not share too much, but also by just providing a bit of context, I think it helps everyone. Obviously, it helps people that are not extremely familiar with the terms that we're using, especially with more complex terms. But also for more experienced people, it doesn't hurt them to, just to be reminded of what that is. We can do that by using tooltips, for instance, ensuring that every complex term on our website has a sort of like description somewhere, and that information is widely available. And that we are guiding users to that information as well, because it doesn't really help if it's available, but we're not guiding them to that. And thirdly, lack of responsiveness. When I was preparing this short presentation, I actually share with the rest of the Yuxi team the notes for this. And one of the things that they mention is that, because I was saying, oh yeah, because most people nowadays are using mobile phones to access everything. And one of the things that Charlie, my colleague, mentioned is that, mobile phones are like the websites. So for instance, like accessing the website on your mobile phone, or like it being responsive and being able to function on a website is actually the website. Because without it, we are, not providing a good experience for the majority of the users. Obviously, I understand that sometimes, and especially with dashboards and more complex websites, it's really difficult to get it right, and probably the experience will always be better on our laptops, and that's totally fine. We just need a way for people to be able to access the information that they need to provide them a good experience on mobile as well. And then obviously for more complex things, we can guide them to the browser, to laptops. That's totally fine to assume that it's better on laptops, but that should serve as an excuse to not think about mobile experience. So again, those are the 12 points that we usually encounter on our dogfooding sessions. Here's a QR code you can scan. That's for a Notion document with all of these points and explanations, more detailed explanations about each of them. Some action items for you to consider while creating your own products, and also some resources and other tools. So, for instance, the color checker tool and other juicy things. Then I would like to finish this by just briefly tell you how we can help you. So at the Yuxi team, we obviously can help you by doing some dogfooding sessions on what you are creating. It doesn't need to be on a final state. We can jump earlier to help you catch some issues early on, which is always great. But also, we're always available to have a chat about usability if you're encountering any problems with, let's say, running usability testings, user interviews at an early stage, or even refining the final, not final, but like the current stage of your product, because in software development, there's never a final stage. I think that's it. I'm gonna pass the ball to Steph. We're gonna start the fun part, which is